Hey guys, welcome back to Dasker Discusses. Yes, it was Halloween, a few days ago, maybe a week ago, and I didn't put out a Halloween video, but you know, I did make that one from last year, the top 10 Halloween movies to watch on Halloween, and I came across an article recently on the internet about the top scariest movies by science, and I thought, why not as a group, why don't we discuss that and go through it? So let's go through the top scariest films by science. Let's do this. Now I've got my trusty iPad here and I will go through the article with you. Now it's been all over the internet recently. There's a website called Broadband Choices, Nerdist, BuzzFeed. Everyone's running pretty much the same article, but I found the highest quality one here by broadbandchoices.co.uk, and it talks about the science of the scare, okay? Now, let's just read through it. Is there anything better than a night in with lights off and truly terrifying movie that gets your heart pounding? We don't think so. That's why we've explored the science of scare with our experiment to categorically find the scariest films for your scary movie night. Our team studied critics' lists and Reddit recommendations to curate 50 of the best horror films ever made before subjecting them to our tests. Now, as you can see, watching the movie in 5-point surround sound, 50 people consumed over 120 hours of the best horror movies, each fitted with a heart rate monitor to which the movies got their blood pumping the most to find the ultimate horror movie and crown the king of Fright Night. Now this is the part that I've been saying that I've been seeing a lot of, this whole kind of spiel about all these top films. Now, it says here, the ultimate horror movie is Sinister. Now, once this article came out a couple of days ago, I actually thought, you know what, I'm going to rewatch Sinister, okay? Because I do remember it with Ethan Hawke, and it was basically by Blumhouse Productions, who I'm a big fan of. Follows a chilling story of a controversial true crime writer, Elliot Oswald, as his obsession with reviving his career leads to an investigation into a series of family murders and child kidnapping. After unearthing a string of grisly 8mm films, seemingly showing the murders, including one in his own home, Will Elliott's obsession puts his family in danger. I did rewatch Sinister, and look, I'm a big horror movie fan. And, you know, I did my Halloween video last year as well. The thing is with horror films is that I prefer more of the slow burn type horror, and we'll talk about that in a second. But for now, let's look at this list they've discussed. Now, the thing is, Sinister, yes, I rewatched it, and it is quite creepy, and I highly recommend it for those who haven't seen it. It is quite disturbing in parts and violent per se. Yeah, it is violent. I found that rewatching it again, there is a lot of jump scares in it. And by looking at this, resting beats per minute, heart rate 65, the average was 86, difference 32, highest spike was 131. Now, as you can see the graph here, it goes up and down, and I agree, as watching at the start of the film, not much really happens, you know, it's not, you know, just building up. It's good character development, good story development. Ethan Hawke's family move into the house, then he finds the 8mm films and he starts watching them. This big spike here, I think I remember vividly about an hour in, there is some really big jump scares, right? And in terms of like my heart rate, yes, it did get my heart pounding at those points. Now, you know, in terms of like, was it, you know, looking at this, you know, the science of scare, you know, is it the scariest movie because of, you know, your heart rate racing and like, you know, jumping out of your skin kind of feeling? Yeah, I give it that. It is quite a creepy movie, and there is a lot of full-on jump scares, and there's parts where the movie does have a lot of jump scares which kind of get a bit annoying to me, and I can understand why the heart rate does jump up pretty high in this point. Now, it says here, the top 20 scientifically scary movies. Average heart rate when watching movie versus average resting heart rate. So let's look at the top 10, shall we? Number 2, we've got Insidious. 85 is the average heart rate, difference 20 beats per minute, highest spike 133. Insidious, definitely up there. Again, thinking about it, you know, that is a scary movie. I've seen it a couple of times and it takes a lot for me to get scared, but when I first saw it, I'm like, yes, you know, this, I think it was James Wan, Lee Whannell, like that kind of, those directors, the guys that made Saw as well, they must have been attached to this. I'm pretty sure they were producers. And when I first saw Insidious, I'm like, yes, this is the type of horror I want. You know, that slow burn. And Insidious is a really great horror film, and the way the characters and the storyline goes along, you know, where you got the haunted, they think it's the haunted house, but it's actually the kid who's haunted. I'm not going to spoil anything there. I can understand the jump scares in there, especially with that, you know, spoilers, The Red Demon Man. 3, The Conjuring. Again by the same, I'm pretty sure by the same producers, or I'm pretty sure James Wan and Lee Whannell were connected to this somehow. It's in that universe. And that's 3rd on the list at 129. Yes, a lot of jump scares in there. It is quite scary, but again, I'm not saying that these movies are all about jump scares. I'm saying that by looking at this, the science of scary, you know, the average heart rate, 84 beats per minute, as you're watching the film, I can understand how 1, you know, Sinister, 2, Insidious, 3, The Conjuring, how they can have this, because you're kind of on the edge of your seat, per se, like, so to speak. 4, Hereditary. I love Hereditary. I love that movie. Ari Aster, the director, I think he's going to be something awesome. You know, Midsummer was awesome too. And when I first saw this at the cinemas, I was pretty scared. Now, a lot of people didn't like it and thought it was trash. I got friends that didn't like it at all after I recommended it. Everyone's different. Everyone has their opinion. Not everyone likes horror movies. I really liked Hereditary. That epic slow burn, very Kubrick-esque of Ari Aster. The use of shots, the use of music is amazing, and the actual storyline, and it's got multiple viewings where you can pick up a lot of things. So I can see that, and the highest spike was 109. I reckon I'd give that to the ending of the film. The last 20 minutes, quite suspenseful. Paranormal Activity Part 1, yeah, I can see where people found that on the edge of their seats, where their heart rate was running at, what, 82 beats per minute? I'll give that okay. It follows, again, out of all of this list, this is one that I would move down the list. It was, you know, quite creepy, but for me, I don't put that in the top 10, no way. Conjuring 2, I like Conjuring 1 a bit better. I felt Conjuring 2 just, some parts of the film just took me out of that whole supernatural feel. It was just a bit too much of the special effects, but I do give it this. There was that bit with the crooked man. That was very Insidious-esque, and I'll leave that in the top 10. The Babadook, I'm glad that an Aussie movie made it in here. And a lot of people, you know, either haven't heard of it. If you're not a horror aficionado, then you probably haven't heard of it. But if you're a good Aussie film fan, then you would have seen it. And I think it's quite scary as well. And I'm glad that that made it in there. So I'll leave that in there. The Descent, more of a gore fest to me. I don't think it deserves to be in the top 10. The Visit, again, I think it was M. Night Shyamalan. Okay, but not on my thing. What's interesting is this, the biggest jump scares by heart rate, okay, you've got Insidious, Sinister, Exorcist 3, The Conjuring, The Descent. Interesting they say The Exorcist 3 there, because the Exorcist is, if we scroll down in this article, as you can see, The Exorcist lies at number 17, but the biggest jump scare here, it's got Insidious, 133, and then Sinister, 131. Yep, definitely in there. I could see why Sinister and Insidious are up there, but for the third one, Exorcist 3 at 130 beats per minute, the highest jump scare, the biggest jump scares by heart rate, I know exactly what they're talking about. So the thing is with The Exorcist 3, I think it's a great film. It's totally different from the original, but it's that slow burn, scary detective story about Kinderman from The Exorcist 1. Obviously, it's played by a different actor, and I know where that jump scare is. It's that real long shot of the corridor in The Exorcist 3 where up until this point, there's a murderer doing all these really bad things, you know, killing people, and then there's this one shot that just sustains for about 2, 3, 4 minutes, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get this giant jump scare. So I can understand why that's there. Conjuring as well, and The Descent, as we talked about. Now, 11, The Ring, yeah, okay, I like the original version of The Ring, so I would put that instead of that. A Quiet Place, again, builds the suspense, tense, deserves to be in there, I get it, yeah. A Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm happy is there, and Halloween, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because they're 3 of my favorite horror films because they're old school horror, and these movies defined what horror is. Especially Halloween was, you could say, and I'm going to say now, the first proper slasher film, but in terms of like one person, but Texas Chainsaw was, I think, the birth of like that, you know, that early 70s, we're getting away from that whole monsters, vampires, Frankenstein, and getting to like real life where a group of psycho people in Texas and what have you know, there's not much chainsawing in it, but I could see why it's in the top 20. But in terms of like heart rate going up, yeah, that last act definitely puts it up there for me. Halloween as well, even though people may watch it and think it's a bit tame, I still think it deserves to be in there. Elm Street, one of my favorites. I did a review on it on this channel earlier as well. That the first probably 20 minutes is like so tense. It's like awesome. In the middle of the film, especially when Nancy's in the high school and she sees Tina's body bag, still gives me nightmares to this day. Nightmares. 28 Days Later, zombies. You know, it's the only zombie film I can see in here that's, you know, well, no, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think, yeah, that deserves to be in there. The Exorcist at number 17. I'm glad that's in there. I want to do a big review on The Exorcist, a big analysis like I did with The Shining, because I think it deserves it, and I think that these days people are just after these jump scare kind of rubbish horror movies that are out there, and movies like The Shining, Exorcist, and even Hereditary these days, they are, you know, The Exorcist for its time, and even now, I think it still holds up. I want to do a big analysis on it. I can see why the heart rate stays at 92 there, because it is a scary film and it affects people in different ways psychologically. If you're religious, not religious. If you're not religious, then probably not as much. Hush, again, I think you could put other stuff in there. We'll talk about that. It, if they're talking about the remake, yes, it's filled with jump scares. If anything, there's too many. It Chapter 2, I'm not even going to talk about it. Scream, I don't know why. I mean, it is quite, the tension's there. You know, you've got the masked Ghostface killer. I get it. He's quite scary to people, but looking at the best of the rest, The Grudge, The Witch, Blair Witch Project, Alien, The Thing, Poltergeist, Annabelle, Friday the 13th, The Orphanage, Dark Skies, Wolf Creek, The Omen, The Shining, Get Out, Audition. I'm sorry, but I'm going to substitute a couple here. I'll take out 28 Days Later, and I'm going to put in The Shining in there, okay? I think The Shining deserves to be in there. Not because I'm a Kubrick fan, but I think, you know, just everything about it. You can watch my analysis on it. It deserves to be where 28 Days Later is because of that slow burn. Other ones in there, look, I love Blair Witch Project, but I can understand why it wouldn't be in the top 20 because it's not that you get tense. Maybe the last 20 minutes, yeah? Poltergeist, I think, could be in there. But again, I can understand why that's not in there because it's a family drama / horror, even though I think that the first act of the film, the middle of the film, yes, I know there's a bit of a lull and it's quite, not boring, but I can understand where the scares aren't there, but the last act is like full of adrenaline, so I can see why that's not in there. But, you know, Get Out is another one that, you know, as a media studies teacher, a lot of people do teach. I'm a big fan of the film, Jordan Peele, I'm a fan of that, and Us to a certain extent. I think I like Get Out more. I wouldn't put that in the top 20. It's more of a, you know, the commentary on society, but it's still a great film, but doesn't deserve to be in that kind of science scare, and it's not. Other ones that I would possibly take out, that I would change. I would take out Hush and put The Grudge, but I'm talking about The Grudge, maybe the Japanese version, because I think that's far superior, and I think even the American version's okay, the Hollywood version's okay, but take out Hush and put that. And the last one I'm going to do is, look, maybe controversial, but Alien has to get in there for either It or Scream. Probably Scream. If we're looking at this as, you know, the science of the scare and looking at heart rate, I think people's heart rate would be raised more watching Alien than Scream. A teen slasher film, apart from Halloween, where it was the original, I think that Alien deserves to be in there because of its slow burn, because of not much happens in the first act of the film, but then when the alien gets on the ship, I think it's tense, especially Dallas when he's in those, the air ducts as well. Put that in there. So that's what I'm thinking, you know, take out exactly what I said. I'm not going to repeat myself, but overall, look, as a horror fan and as a movie fan and as a film studies teacher as well, but mainly as a horror fan, I was pretty interested in reading this article and going through it. You know, I agreed with a few things, but in terms of where, you know, number one would be for me, it's very difficult, but I can see how Sinister would be there. I just think that Sinister is a lot of jump scares. It does have a lot of tension and suspense, but for me, it's very difficult to say. I would probably put Insidious number one, then maybe Hereditary 2, and then Sinister, and then The Conjuring. So my ranking for the top 5, let's do it right now, I would put number 1, Insidious, number 2, Hereditary, number 3, Sinister, number 4, The Conjuring, and number 5, I don't know about Paranormal Activity. I really don't know, but you know what? I'm going to put The Shining at number 5. Hey, if you don't agree, whatever, The Shining or Paranormal Activity, up to you. You know, that's my thing. So, guys, look, I hope you enjoyed this different kind of video that I've made. Please leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the article and whether or not you agree with, you know, the best scares by science. You know, doing all these. I found it interesting. They did a scientific experiment on this. So let me know what you thought in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you want to keep up to date with my channel, please hit the subscribe button. And I'll see you guys on the next episode of Daska Discusses. Stay safe. Boom.